It's all about the process, step by step. Today, you can start successfully in your business by using a proven process that works. Welcome to the Start Successfully podcast, where veteran entrepreneur Gabe Arnold shares his proven step-by-step process, the process you need to start successfully in any business. And now, here's your host, Gabe Arnold.
All right. Hello. Welcome to episode 7 of the Start Successfully podcast. I'm really excited to have you on today. I know for me, I know when I'm listening to a podcast, I'm usually driving or working out or doing something where I can't hold something in front of me like a book. And so I always value my time in listening to podcasts or things like this because I get to learn on the go. So I hope that today's episode will do that for you as well. I hope you find it valuable. And I just want to say thank you so much for listening. Today, I'm going to share with you a story about how I failed in a big way early on in my business, on in a business that I had years ago. And then I'm also going to share with you an update on my $250,000 challenge and give you some honest numbers and thoughts about starting up a new business. And as always, I just want to start out by sharing a quote with you, one that means something to me, and I'll kind of share my thoughts about it as we go through our episode today. Success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Winston Churchill. So after this break, I'm going to tell you the story about how I lost almost half of one of my earlier businesses overnight and how I ended up recovering from that.
This episode is brought to you by Copywriter Today. With Copywriter Today, you get a team of dedicated writers working for you on your content marketing needs. Get your email marketing, blog posting, white paper, sales copy, lead magnets, and so much more, written by professional writers that really understand how to drive your business. Copywriter Today is a one-stop solution, a subscription-based service with a low monthly cost. To get started now with a special offer just for you, visit copywritertoday.com/start successfully. That's copywritertoday.com/start successfully.
So everybody likes to, tell the stories about when they were really successful and when, they made a lot of money and when everything went really well. And I think those are good. I think we all need inspirational stories to look up to. But sometimes I think that it can cause us to overlook, the real work or the real challenge of business and of life. And so I just want to share with you a story about myself and about a bad partnership, and it'll kind of tie into the quote that I shared by Winston Churchill, because that's the mindset that I've been, life has forced me to adopt, fortunately or unfortunately, that I can still be enthusiastic in the midst of failure and midst of difficult times and still end up being successful in the long run. And so this story will kind of make a little more sense of why I look at life that way. So years ago, probably, if I'm thinking about it, over a decade ago now, actually even earlier, maybe almost 15 years, I had started up a large help desk, voice over IP, and web development shop. And I originally partnered with somebody that I thought would be a great partner. And so we were 50-50 partners in this. And early on, it was really valuable because I learned a lot technically from him. And, I learned quite a bit about web development, about how voice over IP worked, about, help desk things, fixing computers, things like that. So it was great because early on I got pointed in the right direction, and then I picked it up from there and kind of taught myself and learned a lot on my own. So that part of it was valuable, and I'm still thankful for that today, and even thankful to him for that, even though things didn't work out in the end. But what I realized in a very short time is that, this ex-partner had the knowledge. Unfortunately, he didn't have the work ethic to keep up at all or even show up. And so it was completely normal for him to be late all the time. And basically it just fell into a pattern where he wouldn't show up till 2 or 3 in the afternoon to our office. And then by, 5 or 6 o'clock, he was ready to be done working and go out and hang out with his friends and go to the bar and have fun, which there's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. But when you're trying to build a business, it's really hard to do that when you're not putting in the time. So I realized early on that I was going to be carrying the business in every sense of the word, doing the work, doing the sales, dealing with customers and employees, And I have no problem doing that work and working hard. But it was frustrating because I dealt with it, and built the business and just worked around him. But eventually just got completely sick of the lack of results and the lack of work ethic and the lack of effort. And at that point, I had realized that I made a mistake of being 50-50 partners with somebody that I didn't really know that well. And, I realized that going forward, I would probably never be 50-50 with anybody because it puts you in kind of a deadlock position when you want to make changes. But at that point that I realized that things weren't going well, I decided to work on buying him out. And so I had put together an agreement and said, here, I'm going to buy you out. I'll pay you X amount a month for X amount of time. And then we signed a deal to do that because we realized that it just wasn't a good fit. Unbeknownst to me, he had gone out to almost all of our customers right before we signed that deal and told them that I was going to jail and that all these awful things were happening. He had really stretched some information that was not true into something really, really crazy. And in a matter of just days, 24, 48 hours after he sat down and signed a deal to sell his part of the business to me, I lost almost half of our customers and and over 50% of our revenue. And so I went from what I thought was going to be a great, strong move to improving the health of the business and being successful to realizing that I was dealing with somebody that was incredibly dishonest and actually went out and just tried to steal a bunch of customers and successfully did steal some of my bigger ones. And when I realized that, I remember sitting there, and just wondering to myself, how am I going to make it? How am I going to go from, I had everything pretty figured out. I was making decent money and things were going to, I wasn't getting rich by any means, but I was making a living, to having the name of my business completely tarnished and torn apart and customers that were just leaving like crazy because he had gone out and lied about a bunch of different things. And I remember just sitting there thinking, how am I going to feed my family? How am I going to survive this? How am I going to, pay my electric and my rent and everything like that? And I felt, in some senses, like just an incredible failure. But at the same time, I remember even in that moment, thinking to myself, well, I chose to be in this partnership and I chose to create this business. And so I'm going to take responsibility for what's happening right now, despite the fact that it's very demoralizing, it's very discouraging, and I'm really, on top of losing all this, I'm hurt by everything that's happening too. And so in that moment, I said, you know what, I'm going to recover and rebuild and figure it out and, start to head back in the right direction. And it took me 18 months to actually, fully recover from that. I ended up closing up that business because there was no value left in it and creating a new business, which is today, Business Marketing Engine. And so it ended up being good. It worked out great because I was able to start fresh with no ties or issues to a bad partnership, a bad experience. And despite the fact, having basically been knocked down to nothing and starting over again, I was able to learn a lot. And I'm telling you the story not because I want anybody to feel bad about it, because I don't feel bad about it at all. I think it was a really positive and valuable lesson that I learned. But I'm telling you this because honestly, there's a cost to entrepreneurship. There's a cost to being successful. And sometimes, things go great, which is wonderful, but oftentimes, we learn really hard lessons. We may lose everything, or we may lose a key employee, or we lose the contract that we thought was going to be there forever. Or, we face something personally that really challenges our business. And those are the times when you have to, hold on to that quote or that mindset, that I share with you early on, that success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. And I don't want you to, any more than I want you to be unsuccessful, or any more than I want you to believe, the pipe dreams of that everybody finds success and everything works out great all the time. I also don't want you to think that you have to, have a massive failure to be successful, because I think that's just as much a lie. But I think that what you do need to keep in mind is that if you're willing to go from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm, then that means that you're actually learning in the process. And so when you have a large or small failure, it's actually a great opportunity to, number one, evaluate what you did poorly for me, I was a poor partner because I didn't think through on my side, and I chose my partnership without thinking. So that was a huge thing, and then I really didn't protect some of my customer relationships, and there was just a ton I learned out of that. I also had managed my money personally, so I was in a position where I was completely dependent on my business revenue, and you don't want to be in that position. You want to actually be paying yourself a reasonable paycheck and putting money aside so that you can deal with these rainy days. So, as I said, like when you fail, there's a few things to remember. Number one, evaluate what you did poorly. Write it down. Do what we call on our team now a postmortem, and say like, hey, here's what happened. This was the mistake. This is what we want to do differently in the future. Then you take those lessons. That number two, you take the lessons that were learned, and you become stronger. You don't get into a bad partnership again. You don't take on the wrong customer. You don't hire the wrong team members, and you have a stronger process for that. Number three is after we fail, we get to build or rebuild with the right safeguards in place, so we don't make the same mistakes again. So for me, a big takeaway from that lesson is that I don't do 50-50 partnerships anymore, because I think that they just create deadlocks and they're risky, and it would have been an easier transition if I was a minority partner, or my ex-partner was a minority partner. It would have been a lot easier. So we always rebuild with kind of safeguards in place that are going to help us in the future. Number four on my list of like what I do when I evaluate failure is that I really focus on being objective about everything and everyone that was involved. I want to really be honest and evaluate myself and say what did I do wrong or right? What could I improve upon? Was I overly emotional? Did I not think this part through? Just kind of step out and view myself from like a third party perspective, and then think through how I would improve upon that, and be objective about the other people involved. Maybe you really liked somebody that you were working with. Maybe you really liked a customer, but you need to have a more objective view of them. So number four, always be objective. And then number five, you just can't be too emotional about the business that you're involved in. You can't be too emotional about the failure or the thing that happened. That never leads us to making objective decisions or growing or improving. And so those are kind of my five things that I look at when evaluating a failure, so that I can grow and improve from it. So number one, evaluate what you did poorly. Number two, take those lessons learned and become stronger. Number three, build or rebuild again with the right safeguards in place so you don't make the same mistakes again. Number four, be objective about everything and everyone involved, including yourself. And number five, never be too emotional. So those are kind of like the keys that I look at, the tools that I use when looking at a failure and how to improve from it. And that's what helps me be excited about, okay, I'm learning and this is, a great opportunity. That's what helps keep the enthusiasm up when going from, one failure to the next or making a mistake. And that's what keeps me from being discouraged. So after this break, I'm going to give you the income report for yourresumebuilder.com and the update on my $250,000 business challenge, give you the honest numbers and where we're at. And again, hopefully you'll find it value and be able to learn from that as well. So we'll be right back. Are you looking to get started successfully? Today I want to invite you to join the Start Successfully Mastermind group. You can check it out by going to startsuccessfully.com/mastermind. There, I'll share all the details with you, and you can give it a try for just $1 for the first week. Inside the group, I'll share with you all the templates, all the details and strategies and everything that I'm doing to build out the new businesses that I'm working on, and you'll also get insider strategies and tips from our guests. So go ahead and check it out, startsuccessfully.com/mastermind, and we'll see you on the inside. So when I originally started up this podcast and a mastermind group that I put together as well for the project, I told everybody exactly what I was going to do. I was going to have a $250,000 business within 18 months. And January 1st was the start date, and it is today, it's February 16th. So I am 46 days into it or something close to that. And so my goal is to build a sustainable, profitable business that at the 18th month mark is worth $250,000 that I can get a buyer for at that point, or it's just valued at that. And then I'll choose if I'm going to sell it or keep it. And I'll actually show you at that point exactly, how you can evaluate and value a business or an online business especially. There's some great tools and a great broker that I'll actually show you the process of. And so that's my goal, is to create something that's worth $250,000 in 18 months or less. And that's kind of a big goal for me, honestly. I do have a product today that's worth more than that with Copywriter Today that I'm not interested in selling right now, but I was able to look at it with this broker, and it's worth at least that much, if not more. And so I wanted to just walk through this process of coming up with the idea, building out the business, and then getting it to operational, getting it to generating revenue, getting it to profitable, and then how to scale it up and show you guys exactly how to sell the business. So my month one goal in January was to get the website up, get things operational, get some staff in place, get a manager in, and start selling. So I did everything that I just mentioned there except for start selling. And so today I wish I was telling you, how I'd met my goal for, the first week of February to have made, a couple dozen sales. But unfortunately, to be honest, I'm still struggling with the business model. And I think that's normal for early on. Although I know there's opportunity, I know this is a valuable niche, I've seen a lot of activity in it, and the research that we've done says, hey, people are willing to pay a couple $100s for a resume normally. I have not cracked the code on how to market that correctly to the right, part of that niche, and so we're struggling. And that's a normal part of starting up a business. The one thing that's a little bit new for me, and I think this is worth noting for any ideas that you have, is that, I've done a lot of B2C, business to consumer products and promotions for my customers, and done very well with it, be very successful for my clients. I haven't ever done that personally for myself with much success doing a B2C product. I've done the majority of everything is B2B, just business to business sales. And so sometimes when we take on our personal project or whatever we have going on, and it may be something we have expertise in and we help other people with, sometimes when we need to internalize that and do it for ourselves, there's a disconnect somehow. I've seen this with ad campaigns I've run. I've seen this with other folks. Doing it for yourself is different, and I don't really have that nailed down of why that is, but it definitely is there. I've seen it multiple times, and I've heard other people in my circles, share that as well. So for me personally, it's kind of a new marketplace dealing with just an end consumer that's not a business owner. It's very different. And so that's probably part of where my struggle comes from, I think. But it's where we're sitting today, that we did some outreach, we did some promotion, and we got basically nothing. We got a couple phone calls, which was great. That gave me some hope, but no results. So I decided, rather than trying to just go straight to selling somebody, which we do cold traffic sales and projects and with clients and things like that, I decided to kind of go at this from a different direction and also kind of re-engineer the majority of the model that I see out there. Most businesses in the resume writing space are saying, here's what we offer and here's our cost, and sign up and we'll do it. So I just modeled after that because I've never seen any harm in modeling after what exists in the marketplace. But in doing that, I'm not seeing traction, and I'm not feeling quite right about it. And the other thing that I want to point out is that it's always important to trust your gut and trust where your intuition is leading you, as well as what the data is showing you, because there's usually something there. And it's hard to quantify, and it's all the subconscious, work that we do that we don't get to see up front. And when your intuition is saying this doesn't feel quite right, or I think we need to adjust, pay attention to that and test it out and see how it actually works. Don't ignore those things. So I'm feeling like that model is not going to work the way I want it to. And so I basically shifted in a few major areas, and I'll share them with you. And then you'll be able to see them as they develop too, right on yourresumebuilder.com, as we kind of continue to build out that property and build out our service there. So rather than doing the traditional model of, hey, here's the packages we offer and sign up if you want help, we're actually going to build out a free resume builder with software so that people can get value before even talking to us. So you're going to be able to go to the site and build your resume for free in as little as 15 minutes, we'll say. I'll time it and figure out what it says. So then when somebody goes in, we're going to coach them through how to write their own resume, and they'll be able to use this tool and this wizard. And then at the end of the wizard, they're going to have an option come up that says, hey, you can get this completely professionally written for this package, or we can do a 1 hour review for a small fee, or we can take 15 minutes and improve your resume by at least 50%, or we'll figure out a quantifiable way to explain that and sell that, and that will be for a small fee. So my thought process is that when we get to the end of that resume, building software, that we'll have a grade that'll say, hey, your resume, based on the inputs you've given us, your resume scores a 70% out of 100%. If you want to get it to 100%, invest, $19 or whatever, some very small fee compared to the $200 that people are charging right now, and you'll get to talk to an expert and we'll help you improve your resume. Or you just want the free resume, go ahead and that'll be fine. That'll still be free. So with this mindset, I'm going to use something that I've used successfully before, and we'll see if it works here as well. I'm basically going to focus on undercutting everybody else out there. And the reason that I've done this in multiple different marketplaces in the past is because if you go in and undercut what else everybody else is doing, and if you can do it in a profitable way, then you create this you shake things up in the marketplace and you get exposure and people talk about you, and you break the mindset that people already have. From the few dozen sites that I narrowed down to like 10 or 12 that we really focused on from a research standpoint, they're all about at the $150 to $200 mark as the entry point. So if I can say, hey, we can help you write a resume, or we're just kind of assisting you for less than $20, if that's my number, then I'm completely disrupting what exists today, and I will get attention. And the other thing is, when you reinvent that model, you kind of get to break away from what people think is the way it should work, and you get to create your own model and build the world that you want. And I did that with Copywriter Today by saying we're a subscription copywriting service. We're not a pay by the word. We're not a pay by the article. We're not going to charge you thousands of dollars a month like some really, really high-end services charge. We're just going to charge you a reasonable price so that you can get as much content as you need every month for just a low subscription price. So the same mindset is what I'm bringing to this now. And so that kind of like undercutting or disrupting the marketplace is what I've seen some success in before, and is what we'll be focusing on next. The other thing that's kind of a key mindset shift is I originally thought we were just going to go straight to the end consumer with our marketing and our outreach and everything. But I realized that I'm probably shorting myself, and hurting the idea by not, early on focusing on building the affiliate network for this. So I think we're going to focus on that as the primary sales source, and I have not done that in the past either. I've always rolled out with some cold traffic and email outreach and everything that I've done on my own, so that we're selling to the end consumer directly. In this case, I think we're going to focus on building the affiliate network as the primary channel for the product, because if we go after a college age group, or if we go after a segment where we can get some affiliate referrals in, I think that will accelerate our growth. So that was just something I was thinking a lot about last night before I was falling asleep in bed, and it just kind of popped in my mind that it was like, okay, I think this is a product where affiliate sales is going to be the primary driver. So those are just kind of like some big shifts in my mindset on how we're going to be approaching the project. And so I've got the software about 80, maybe 90% done. And so we'll finish that up and build the new free resume builder out. The affiliate end needs a lot of work. I'm going to have to build out the kind of the program and process and the recruitment process for that. So these are things over the next 2 weeks that we'll be doing. And then we'll dive in and push again to generate sales. So, for me, this has been valuable because going through this reminded me that it's really hard to start up something new. Even though, our flagship product now, Copywriter Today, started 3 years ago, and I don't really think about how hard it was to start that. Now looking back, I remember how hard it is to get early momentum and get the ball rolling. Once you get that done, though, it's easy to maintain, easy to keep things growing and keep that momentum. But that first initial, push can be really hard, can be a struggle to figure out what's working. The getting traction part of starting a business is even for me a lot harder than I originally remember. So that's the update. That's what I wanted to share with you guys today. And I find obviously a lot of people like to share, like I mentioned earlier, their successes and what's working great. And that's fantastic. But I think it's also important to have reality checks like this and like kind of an honest look at what's actually going on. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. I want it to be something that can be valuable to you, because hearing about the struggles or failures, hearing about how the actual kind of beginning stages shift and change in order to help us find success, that's part of starting up successfully, adapting, changing, doing what's necessary to actually find the winning formula or the secret recipe that works. So that's the update. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is a little bit different than our past couple episodes, but I just wanted to continue to just be accountable to you guys and share what's going on. So that's where we're at. I will give you another update in about a month as the progress is made. Hopefully we'll have sales coming in, but no matter what, even if I've had another couple failures, we're going to keep working at it until we find success. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Start Successfully podcast. If you like it, please do give me a great rating on iTunes and give me some feedback. I really appreciate that. And I will see you guys on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the Start Successfully podcast. To connect with Gabe Arnold or with our guests and resources from today's show, please visit startsuccessfully.com.